Good. 1 minute after 5, local time. Good morning for some people, good afternoon for others. This is the Diagnostics webinar for June 21st, 2018. Welcome. Let me just go through the program. I'm going to do an introduction of the panelists, introduction to the Zoom software, and then the agenda, the presentation, a Q&A session with Swami and myself, and closing comments. Good. Introduce myself. My name is John Lewinberg. I'm Sales Manager for Diagnostics. We have Swami Mahadevan. He's from our Diagnostics Competence Center. Gert Weisman is the Product Manager for Diagnostics, and Koen Portners is the Solutions Architect for Diagnostics. For the Zoom software, this is a webinar, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be chatting most of the time and describing the solution. But if you do have questions, what you can do is you can check the chat button and in there type the information that you want and go from there. Good. A quick recap for the webinar that we had on May the 8th, 2018. That webinar is to see on our Diagnostics website. You'll get the address, the URL for the Diagnostics website very shortly at the end of this program. We did a discussion on business processes. We specifically looked at job manager, design manager, quality manager. And we had some good results come out of that. We wanted to give some examples as well for utilities that have been using diagnostics. So one utility had an issue with their VPN. We were able to save them 185,000 euros on a yearly basis because of that. So that was an optimization of their networks. For another Dutch utility, it was an optimization of the quality manager rules, configuring them. That turned out to be 230,000 euros per year that they were saving. And we're working together with the Malaysian utility, and they were able to save $200,000 per year just setting up proper indexes on their data stores. To paraphrase one of our customers here in the Netherlands, Anexus, were able to improve their quality manager processes dramatically, and that gave them a lot better, gave them a much better process in terms of their registration. Good. So during the GE in Bellevue, Washington, 2 weeks ago, what we did was we took an inventory with a number of different customers, tried to get feedback. We got some great feedback, actually. And based on that feedback, we're going to be addressing the issues with respect to load balancing, alerting, tracebacks, unused customizations, merge and posting, and upgrading. Those were the highlights of the issues that were described by Smallworld users. I'm now going to hand it over to Swami. Swami will be doing a presentation and a demonstration of the diagnostics based on these 6 items. Good. Swami?
Okay. Right. So hello, everyone. My name is Swami, and welcome to the webinar. So as John mentioned, we were at the users in Seattle, where we met many of the customers and clients to understand what are the challenges they were facing with different aspects of Smallworld. So as part of this webinar, what I would be doing is trying to address these challenges, list them out, tell you how diagnostics can help fix those challenges. Right. So I'd like to start this webinar by providing a brief introduction on our product, which is Diagnostics. Diagnostics is a big database solution which is built on top of Smallworld and tracks everything that happens inside Smallworld. So what it does is every single click, every single database transaction that the user does is tracked by Smallworld, tracked by Diagnostics in Smallworld, and it is then processed and made available in the form of these easy to understand dashboards. So using these dashboards, Diagnostics can help administrators to answer questions such as how productive users are throughout the day, or which are the applications that the user is using the most, queries or predicates which are directly affecting the productivity of the users, and so on. Administrators can then also use the insights that they get from these dashboards to make changes in Smallworld, so that their users are more productive, and so as to improve the user's overall Smallworld experience. So one very common questions that we get asked when we introduce Diagnostics to our customers is, if Diagnostics is tracking everything that is happening inside Smallworld, it must affect the user experience of Smallworld, right? So the answer to that question is no, it doesn't. The out-of-box solution that Diagnostic offers has no impact whatsoever on the user experience. The way it makes it happen is very, very simple. The data which is gathered by Diagnostics is kind of stored in a queue inside Smallworld. And whenever Diagnostics senses an idle time in Smallworld, that is when it sends the data out. So if I were to put this into perspective, imagine a user is querying a record in the editor, and he's going to click on the go to button. So as soon as he clicks on the get button, two events are generated. First is the button being clicked, and second is the query being executed in the backend. And these both events are placed in a queue. Once the operation is completed and the user is about to click on the go to button, Diagnostic senses this idle time which is there just before he's about to click that button, and immediately sends out those data to Diagnostics to create all the dashboards. So the agenda for today's webinar would be as follows. I would be starting out by talking about the challenges that utilities have with in being proactive as well as reactive in their maintenance efforts, and how Diagnostics can help there. Next, would be talking about the challenges about handling data in Smallworld. One of our clients, Cox Communication, did a fantastic presentation summit on how Diagnostics help them resolve their problems around data conflicts and data loss. We'll be talking about that. Then I would talk about the role that Diagnostics can play in your upgrade in your Smallworld upgrade, especially the planning phase of it. And lastly, I will be introducing you to our newly launched portal. So let's start with the first, the proactive maintenance. Well, maintenance in Smallworld has traditionally been done as soon as user reports on an issue. So, but there are issues such as, say, I want to know when I have to add a super file just before the database space runs out, for these kind of issues, it is useful for the clients to be proactive rather than being reactive. So in order to do that, Diagnostics does is it offers something called an event-based alert. So what this allows administrators to do is to configure reports on crucial parameters of Smallworld to be sent out at predetermined interval of time. Say, for example, I have for example, I have configured Diagnostics in my machine to send me weekly reports on the size of my database. So I have email open here. As you can see, it has an attachment I'll just zoom in a bit. So what it is doing here is, this is a historical data. This report is generated using historical data that Diagnostics has gathered over a period of. So using this historical data, it is able to tell me the rate at which my database is growing on a daily basis, the current occupied percentage, how much of it is occupied and how much of it is free. And using this is also able to predict the number of days it will take for my database size to get over. So this is when I have an approximate time in number of days on which I will have to add a super file to this particular database, any one of these. So, yep, okay. So you actually, similarly, you can configure Diagnostics to send you weekly, monthly, or daily reports depending on your requirement. around crucial parameters such as, say, conflicts, what are the conflicts that are occurring over the week and how are they being resolved, or a KPI based monthly reports to your managers, or say if you are in a UAT phase of your upgrade project, you can configure Diagnostics to send you weekly reports, which can give you a bird's eye view of the entire UAT process which is going on. Another common challenge that the customers or the consultants that we met on the summit mentioned is their challenge at arriving at the Citrix server to user ratio. So since Diagnostics already tracks what a lot of things in which is happening inside world, such as which users are accessing which images which are coming from which server. So what customers can do is they can leverage this information which is readily available in Diagnostics to arrive at the optimal user to Citrix server count. So as you can see, I have 3 dashboards here which I have configured, which and all these 3, the first one was the number of users which have logged into my servers. I have 4 servers, so it is telling me the number of users which are there per server over a period of time. Second one talks about the performance of my Smallworld application, and the third one here talks about my database performance the same period of time. So say, for example, if I were to look at the server number 4, you can see here that around 11 a.m. that there has been a spike or surge in the number of users logging in. Almost instantly, you can see that the performance of Smallworld as well as that of the database has kind of dropped down. This is the time taken, so in this it has shot up. So at the same time, say if I were to see, say, server 2, for example, you see that the performance is great during the beginning of the time. Then you see a small bit of users coming in, so the performance is taking a hit, but throughout the day it does maintain a steady line. So dashboards such as this can help you analyze the server to user ratio, do the permutation and combination, and arrive at the optimal. Right. So the next one is the reactive maintenance that clients had challenges around. So in idle world, the maintenance cycle looks something like this. A user reports an error, he gets an error, he reports it, administrator recreates it, and he is eventually able to fix that error. Real world, with so much going on in Smallworld, whenever administrator is trying to fix an issue that user had reported, it becomes quite challenging to get an understanding on what exactly had happened. What are the steps that the user followed? So there will be so many reasons could have caused a particular traceback or a particular error to happen, and it would be quite exhausting for the administrators to go through them one by one and zero in on the cost. Let me give you an example. I will move over to the demo environment. 1 minute. Okay. Yep. So let me just see here. Okay. Okay. Oh, 1 second. Yep. So say one user tells me, 1 second. Yep. Say a user tells me that I have a problem while I got a traceback while inserting a cable, or a road, for example, in Smallworld. So let me just see here. Okay. So what I will do is I have a traditional Cambridge database, but you don't have to worry. Rest assured, regardless of the number of customizations that you have, regardless of number of integrations that you have, what you see now is exactly how Diagnostics will work even in your environment. So I go back to this. So he tells me he got an error. So what I will do is I will try to insert a road here, try to see, let's say, am I getting an error? I don't. Do a bit more permutation and combination, then I give them a call, saying that it's working fine. Just go back to the system. If it comes back, do let me. So what happens is 2 more days after that, I do get this error again. Sorry, So I do get this, they do get this error again, and what they're doing at this point of time, they're reaching back to me saying that, oh, by the way, I got this error again. So what I do is then I would do repeat this whole cycle, maybe one-on-one call with him, and then finally I'll be able to fix this particular issue. I'll recreate that and eventually end up fixing it. So let's replay, or let's do the same scenario now with diagnostics. So user reports that he got an error while inserting a road. I asked him when was that. He says it was sometimes in the second half of Thursday last week. So then I go ahead and ask him for his session ID. Session ID is kind of a unique identifier that iDiagnostics assigns to each user session. So he gives me his user ID. So what I do here is I just go to the the traceback analysis. This dashboard here will help you look for tracebacks which happened per user. It will allow you to look for traceback which happened over a period of time. You can filter by machine and so on. So here I will be entering his session ID. I will be doing this, and I do a submit to see. Yep. So I see here that he has got a traceback. Actually, he got it twice. So I click on this to understand when they were. The first one was here, the second one was here. Since both are same, I'll just take one. Maybe I take the one that happened in 3:30 in the evening. Then I go to the second dashboard, which is going to help me go over each and every that the user made throughout the session, right? And you see there are here, these are the actions that he's performing. So I've kind of browsed directly to this. So I see that he has insert over here, and I see that he has done a catalog. There are two values, which is bus, taxi, and single track. Then he has given a geometry, and then he has done an insert. So let me do the same thing here. Just clear this. Okay, diagnostics, and let's see if this works. Yep, this is the one. I give. Okay, this is this, and I click on insert, and I get the traceback. So I'll go back to my slide now. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You guys, let me share my screen from the current slide. Yeah. Let me share my word. Okay. Later. Okay. Yep. Right. So. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, using diagnostics, the overall maintenance, be it proactive or reactive, of Smallworld becomes a lot easier, right? The next one is the data challenge, which so one of the clients that we talked to, that we are engaged with, Cox, had a challenge with the data conflicts and the data loss, which I'm going to talk about. So has always been a major pain points for utilities and telcos who use Smallworld. So this is especially true for telecom. Most of the telcos, a large number of users who are digitizing, merging, posting simultaneously in Smallworld. So whenever there is a loss of data that occurs in the system, it becomes really difficult for them to understand what exactly had caused it. So one of our customers, Cox, faced a very similar challenge in their data. They had a data lost in the system, which directly affected one of very important customer. So they wanted to know what really had caused it. What was the problem? Was it a specific user? Was a process? Was the application a problem? And they wanted to figure out a way to first identify it, then go on to fix it. The problem with Cox had, they got diagnostics, is their Smallworld system was quite mature. There were many processes going on, so many users working simultaneously, that it was virtually impossible for them to do a root cause analysis on a issue that happened quite a few times ago, right? Then they got in touch with us and they got Diagnostics and started monitoring their custom monitors on the data conflict process. After monitoring the process for a few days and doing a bit of analysis using Diagnostics, they were fully able to understand what the problem was. It was a process where multiple group of users were being asked to work simultaneously on the same sections of the network, and that was causing a lot of conflicts. So this has helped them in a major way. Diagnostics has actually enabled them to be proactive about their loss. So now they have a bunch of people who look at Diagnostics every day or on a timely basis to see how the data conflicts are being handled by their user. If they do notice any anomalies, they immediately can reach out to that particular user and understand why that user had handled this resolution in that particular way. So the next up is the diagnostic upgrade. So a typical upgrade project involves the planning, the execution, the testing, and the rollout phase. Out of the planning and the testing phase are the one are very resource demanding. What usually happens is consultants, they sit down with the users from different groups and have this meetings which might last a few days, few months, depending on how the customer is. And then they submit their report on what they think have to be updated and what can be decoupled. So this model by redesign has a couple of turning points, problems. First one is that this requires a lot of effort in terms of resources, both the consultants as well as for utilities themselves. And the second one, very few of these inputs which are gathered are actually backed by data, which means that each user has his or her own opinion on what has to stay in Smallworld and what has to go out of Smallworld. So Diagnostics, what it gives you a whole new approach on implementing the planning phase of your upgrade project. So it has pre-built dashboards which can easily help you identify customizations rarely used. For example, take these three dashboards. The first one talks about the the queries which are extensively used in Smallworld. The second one, Right. So the one talks about the queries which are extensively used in your Smallworld. The second one talks about the functionalities which are mostly used, and the third one talks about the load balancing which is there in the current version of your Smallworld. So what you can do is, using these dashboards, you can concentrate primarily on these three, which is the first one in the query section. You can concentrate on these queries and say that these are the queries which my users use most, and as part of the upgrade, I want to make them better. The second one is you can focus on these functionalities. Some of them I have used this to understand which of the ones I need to improve my performance on. You can very easily use the same dashboards to identify which are the ones which can be removed from your system, which no longer to be part of the upgrade. And the third one, as you can see here, is I see it is telling me about the load balance which is there in my web server, and I see that most of the traffic is being routed to my server 1, which again, this particular balance I can establish as part of my upgrade, or I can do it right away. That depends on me. So the point that I'm trying to make here is you have dashboards that comes out of box in Diagnostics, which you can use it, which are available to you on a click of a button to tell you exactly whatever happens in your planning phase. Do the exact same thing that happens in your planning phase. Only the difference is that the way Diagnostics does is non-intrusive. It's completely backed by data that was generated by your own users by using their own behavior and their own activities. So what this does is this having Diagnostics in-house will not help customers save hundreds of resource hours, but they can be assured that the decisions that they are making with terms of say which are to be decoupled and so on, these decisions are as accurate as they can get, because that is taken directly from the data generated for user behavior. Consultants and utilities can also use Diagnostics, by the way, to compare the performance of these frequently used tools which they want to improve the performance on. So what they can do is, say for example, an electric utility wants to make its circuit building more efficient, or a telco wants to make its network tracing more efficient. They can actually compare the performance before the upgrade and after the upgrade using diagnostics. So these are the different things that diagnostics can help in whenever you are planning or you are about to implement the upgrade phase of your Smallworld. Right. So the last section that I wanted to talk about is the user portal which we learned. So one of the very important lessons that we have learned over the years that we have been involved with clients via diagnostics is Smallworld is constantly evolving, and customers are investing in new and newer products that are built on top of Smallworld. And as they keep on doing that, there is a need for them to actually invest in things which are monitoring the performance of these products. So what we did at Real World is we kind of noticed this trend, growing interest among our customers, and then we decided to allow them to have a platform which will enable them to share the dashboards, which the custom dashboards that they have been building over the for monitoring their own process. And this is the portal. This is the URL for the portal. You can go here. It's live now. We launched it last month. And let me just that portal. Okay, it's portal.in. Okay. Oh. So this is the portal. I have a section here dedicated for custom modules. As you can see, it was just less than a month now, and already have customers submitting ones for quality manager. We have the entire business process package. We have the post here, which was developed by one of our clients, Annexus. And we have super file monitors, we have dashboards for printing behavior, just about everything. And this is just in less than a month we actually launching this. So what usually happens is customers their custom modules, we validate them, and once everything is okay, we upload them to this. So there are many dashboards which are available for download. There are many more which are still pipeline, and once we have them validated from our end, we'll have them uploaded over here. There is also one more section here wherein we are uploading our webinars and any other presentations that we would like to share with you. You can see it over here. The webinar that John was talking about is accessible from over here. So if you catch up on that, you can catch them using this. Right. Okay. So yep. So before I end this webinar, I'd like to give you guys a glimpse of the things that we are doing, we are working on. The first one is the Synergy dashboards. We are planning on building dashboards which come data from the custom dashboards that we are building, our clients are building, and some of these and some of the dashboards that are out of the box to form a dashboard, a Synergy dashboard is more insightful. For example, we already have dashboards to monitor design manager and quality manager. We are building one which consumes data from both design manager and quality manager and helps answer questions such as which are the business process which have most number of errors, or which the assets in your new connection business process which gets flagged the most, for example. The second one, what we are doing is creating dashboards which are specific to utilities and telcos. What this means is gas utilities will have dashboards which have sites for cathode protection, for example. Your water utility will have one for outage management, electric utilities for circuit build, telcos for path and trace, and so on. So this is what we are doing now. And with that, I come to the end of this webinar. I hope that you guys found it helpful, and I sincerely hope that you too will one day shine beacon. Thank you. Okay.
Good, Swami. Thank you. We're not quite at the end of the webinar yet. We're gonna
with my part of the webinar.
Yeah, indeed. So we've actually come to. Let me share the screen here. Share screen. And good. We've actually come to the question and answer session. So we've set aside about 15 minutes for this, and users have an opportunity by going into the chat on Zoom and entering some questions if there are any questions. And if I go to the chat, I don't see any at the moment. So Swami, I'm going to start you off with a question while everyone has an opportunity to think of some questions that they may have. What about custom methods and tracking custom methods? Is that going to have any kind of an effect on the performance?
Well, the custom methods and custom tracking methods that we have is each model that is submitted. What we do as part of our own analysis, we tag them on the number of events that they generate. Like for example, we had one of our clients submit a custom dashboard for monitoring the map interactions or data bus interactions. The data bus interaction, if whenever you say you click on something in on the map, it is going to generate 200 events each time you do that. So, but there are clients who actually need it even for a temporary basis. So there are custom modules which are going to be performance heavy, but we make sure that these are indicated very clearly in the custom modules. So we'll have custom modules which are light, which don't generate that many events, so no performance impact, and then those which are heavy, such as the data bus one that I talked about, which will have a certain performance impact and is wise to use for a temporary basis.
Great. Thanks, Swami. That means that we can basically see anything that's going on in the Smallworld environment and be quite granular.
Absolutely.
Good. We do have another question. Is there a way to utilize diagnostics to track UVA consumption?
It can be, although not directly. It can be done indirectly. Like for example, the data bus, the data size monitor that we have in place does something quite similar. So I don't think any of the method. Basically, how diagnostics works is it kind of puts its monitor on method, and whatever comes out of the method is used to dashboards. So in the traditional Smallworld app, you have nothing which actually goes and tells you, gets the size of the database. So what we did is we kind of we had a method in place which actually just triggers that method, does nothing else. So diagnostics monitor is placed on that, and whenever this method is called, this kind of gets the data and passes it off to diagnostics. So there is a way, as long as you get it in Smallworld, there is a way to monitor it in diagnostics.
Great. Thank you, Swami. We have another question in the meantime. Is it possible to anonymize data that is used to track which parts of Smallworld is used by users?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Sure. Is it possible to anonymize data that is used to track which parts of Smallworld is used by users?
You can just avoid that. You can make it available to certain groups of people. That is possible. Usually the request that we come across is to anonymize the user names that we have done before, I think. So for our, I think, European clients, we do that. And I think it's possible. Can you give me a context this would be applicable, a scenario maybe?
So I'm gonna ask for context on that. And in the meantime, we've gotten another question. So can diagnostics be used to track transactional data which occurs as a design manager job goes through the states in a state model? For example, number of objects updated, deleted, inserted in each state, number of QM errors encountered, etc. Yep,
this is where our I think diagnostics already does that database transaction out of box, and this is where the synergy dashboard comes to play. So we have one for job manager already, and we have an out of box dashboard which monitors the database transaction. So what we are trying to do is, based on our interactions with clients, we are trying to build synergy dashboards. So in this case, it might be a which consumes data from the database transaction dashboard and your job manager, and which can help answering the questions that you have. We already have for quality manager and job manager combined, which we are testing now. So which tells you which are the jobs submitted as part of which business process which are failing the most.
Yeah, and Swami, I think what I'm going to add to that is there were in our webinar on May the 8th, we went through the job manager, design manager, quality manager process.
Yes.
And if the participant would like to take a look at that particular webinar, go to the Diagnostics and Control website and view that specific webinar. I think we did a pretty good job of describing all of the aspects that he's requested in this question.
Yep.
Good. And in the meantime, another question: is it possible to monitor the network performance using diagnostics, basically connection between application servers and DB servers?
It can. There is, as long as it happens inside Smallworld, I think we can do that. Like, say, for example, we already have monitors which tracks the connection, to the Swimfish server, for example. So one of our clients that we are talking to right now has a broken block header, which comes up very, very often to them, unfortunately. So what they are trying to do is they have network fluctuations now and then in their system. So what they are trying to use diagnostics is they are using it in order to understand whether whenever they have this network fluctuation, was the connection to Swimfish also affected. If that was not affected, they can eliminate that option and they can concentrate on other things which might cause the BBH. So yes, it can happen, but that is through the Swimfish connectivity.
Okay, good. We've gotten some detail on the anonymous question. So let me phrase here. In the upgrade scenario where you want to check which parts of the customized solution are used or not used, some customers cannot track user activity. So user names need to be anonymized.
Yeah.
So and this in fact can happen. And with respect to consideration for GDPR and what we can and cannot track, we do take that into consideration.
So it would be anonymous data. You will have everything, just it won't tell you who are the users. That's all.
Yeah, that's correct. Good. Any other questions? Just give it a couple of minutes or a minute. I should mention as well, by the way, while we're waiting for some more questions, we've asked Cox Communications if we could put their presentation onto the Diagnostics website, and we've gotten approval for that, so we'll be putting that onto the website very shortly as well. It's a lot of pictures, not an awful lot of words, but that's okay. We can most certainly elaborate on what Cox was communicating during the presentation at the GAUC in Bellevue. Good. No more questions anymore? Wait another 15 seconds. Swami's anxious to keep answering questions.
I am.
Good. I don't see any questions anymore. Oh, round up. Good. First of all, I'm going to thank you. I've got a couple more slides to go through very quickly. Let me.
Oh, there is one more.
One more question. Indeed. Is it possible to build custom monitors within diagnostics?
Yes, it is. A lot. It's just endless. And that's why we have the portal. It is just all this custom dashboards that our customers or our own team are building, and we are making it available for anyone who wants to download it. It will be available in the portal.
That's correct.
If you want to do anything specific, that's also very, very easy to do with diagnostics.
Great. Thanks, Swami. Good. I'm going to close off the question and answer session right now. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. To close it off, let me identify a couple of options here for those organizations that might be interested. First of all, we have a trial period solution that can be for 3 months or it can be for longer. Normally during that trial period, we define 3 areas of concern to resolve, and then you, based on the data that we track, you receive an analysis with outcomes. So it's just a very contained environment for the trial environment. There are other options. We have a managed services option. We have a purchase option. We have a lease option. Of course, we provide training on it because you don't necessarily always want to be dependent on real world or the Diagnostics Competence Center. We most certainly understand that. And there's always an after analysis service as well, meaning that we can provide some insight as to how you could do your migrations for future, how you can take things out, how you can improve things, that type of thing. So we have an offer, exclusive offer. I'm not sure if anybody can see that, but let me do it like that. Up until July 15th, 2018, the first customer out of this group deciding to move forward on a managed services model will receive the first month for free. So we're trying to make the step in for that first customer very attainable. Good. As I promised, information about the website. So it's www.diagnosticsincontrol.com. And you can send your questions or further information requests or whatever to info@diagnosticsincontrol.com. And we most certainly look forward to answering those questions for you. Again, thank you very much. I hope everybody enjoyed the webinar, and we look forward to any correspondence coming up. Thank you, and bye-bye.